Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we transform the material you've shared into a curated shortcut to being truly well-informed.
Today, we're embarking on a journey that spans well over 3,000 years, crosses continents, all to explore the history of a dish that is, you could argue, the world's most successful culinary export. We are talking about pizza.
Absolutely. And I mean, think about it. Pizza is just everywhere. It's comfort food, it's often cheap, it's endlessly customized.
For every culture on earth, yeah.
Exactly. And yet, the moment you start digging, you realize it has this incredibly deep, almost like mythical history. So our mission today is to trace that lineage, starting with its ancient, really humble flatbread origins.
Way back.
Through its very specific, and I mean ritualistically specific identity formation in Naples, Italy, and then, of course, its explosive conquest of the global palate.
And what's immediately clear from the sources we looked at is that this isn't some modern invention. Not at all.
Yeah.
This is a concept that is, well, foundational to civilization itself, in a way. We're going to uncover some truly surprising facts today.
Like what?
Well, why this simple food item became an instrument of credit, for example, or why Europeans were, for a long time, terrified of the tomato.
The poison apple myth.
Exactly. And the rigorous, almost ceremonial rules that elevate authentic Neapolitan pizza to, believe it or not, UNESCO status.
It's just the perfect blend, isn't it? High history, social anthropology, and let's be honest, delicious, lowbrow comfort food.
It really is.
So we're going to give you the knowledge you need to not just eat pizza, but to understand its entire millennium-spanning story.
Right. Let's unpack this. And maybe we should start not with Italy, surprisingly, but with the concept itself.
Okay, so when we talk pizza, our minds instantly jump to Italy, Naples usually.
Naturally.
But the core principle, this idea of flatbread, uses kind of edible plate for toppings. It's truly ancient. It predates modern Italy by thousands of years.
That's the critical starting point, I think. The concept of taking dough, flattening it out, baking it quickly, and using it as, well, an edible plate. It's universal. Even the Romans had a direct precursor, the focaccia, which they called panis focacius.
Right, panis focacius, simple stuff.
Very simple, utilitarian bread baked right in the embers or on the hearth.
Right.
A staple for, the common person.
But the ancestry goes even further back than Rome, doesn't it? Into, like, pure ancient military necessity. I was fascinated by the source's description of Persian soldiers, Darius the Great.
Yes. 6th century BCE. This is a fantastic little piece of culinary history.
And what were they doing?
Well, these soldiers, needing to cook quickly out in the field, literally used their battle shields as makeshift griddles.
No way, on their shields?
On their shields. They'd bake flatbreads on them and top them with simple things they had, like cheese and dates.
Cheese and dates. So savory sweet even back then.
Exactly. It shows that even millennia ago, the idea of a portable, quick flatbread delivery system was just, well, practical genius, born of necessity.
And across the Mediterranean, the Greeks were doing something similar, weren't they? The Plakous?
That's right, Plakous. And it was pretty sophisticated for its time, flavored with staples like herbs, onion, cheese, garlic.
Okay.
But what's interesting, according to our sources, is that unlike modern pizza, it was often used in ritual contexts.
Ritual? How so?
It was sometimes topped with a fruit puree, a coulis they call it, and used as a sacrificial offering.
Wow. So it wasn't just food, it had cultural, even religious significance.
Precisely. Tells us something about its perceived value early on.
And the Romans, they carried on this flatbread tradition too.
Indeed. We have the Roman adoria, or libum adorum. That was made from wheat, honey, oil.
Honey, so sweet again.
Could be. And the toppings could get quite elaborate, often including morabudum,
Which was?
a strong cheese and herb spread, usually heavy on the garlic. What's really amazing is we don't have to just guess what this looked like.
How come?
Pompeii. The volcanic ash, preserved frescoes, actual paintings showing this exact type of ancient food preparation.
Incredible. Visual proof from 2,000 years ago.
It confirms just how long this basic culinary structure has been around.
Okay, so flatbreads are everywhere. Military food, religious offerings, daily staples. But the big question for the listener has got to be, when did the specific word pizza first show up?
Ah, yes. We can pinpoint that moment pretty precisely. The word pizza was first documented in writing in the year 997 CE.
997, wow.
Where? In a legal document from Gaita, a small town in southern Lazio, which is south of Rome.
A legal document. What did it say?
It refers to a local bishop agreeing to lease some land. And in exchange for the land, he was to receive 12 peats
12 pizzas.
and a shoulder of pork delivered on Christmas Day and Easter.
Over 1,000 years ago, and pizza was already valuable enough to be used as rent. That's incredible.
It really is, and its linguistic journey is equally fascinating because it links directly to how it's made.
Okay, tell me about the word itself.
Well, the Italian etymological dictionary traces pizza back to the dialectal term pinza. Pinza, meaning clamp, which in turn apparently stems from the Latin verb pincer.
Pincer. And that means
To pound or to stamp.
Ah, so the name isn't about the topping, it's about the action. Pounding the dough flat.
Exactly. That's the key insight. The action of flattening the dough is what gives the dish its name.
And that connects forward, doesn't it, to the Neapolitan rules we'll talk about later.
Precisely. Think ahead to those stringent rules from the AVPN where pizza makers are explicitly forbidden from using a rolling pin. They must pound the dough flat using only their hands and fingers.
Right.
You can draw a direct line, 1,000 years long, from the Latin pincer to pound, right to the modern pizziuolo, practicing that craft today. It shows this deep, unbroken continuity of technique.
That's fascinating. And that continuity is also visible in other flatbreads that are still around today, right? Showing this wasn't just an isolated thing.
Oh, absolutely. You see global relatives everywhere. Think of Manikish in the Levant.
Topped with za'atar, usually.
Right, or ground meat. Serves that same quick, portable meal function. Or the coca from Catalonia and the Balearic Islands in Spain.
Sweet or savory, those can be.
Yep. Remarkably similar structure sometimes. Then there's Greek pita, obviously. Lapinja in the Balkans. Even in Italy, outside Naples, you have the piadina of the Romagna region.
And even in medieval Europe?
Exactly.
Huh.
Flatbreads like galettes and various cocas show up in manuscripts like Boccaccio's Decameron around the 1400s. It proves this wasn't just Italian, it was a common European necessity. Cheap, fast, satisfying.
Okay, so the concept is ancient and widespread, but the specific dish we really recognize today, the one that launched, 1 million global chains, that crystallizes in one very specific place, Naples.
Naples is absolutely the birthplace of modern pizza, specifically during that period between the 16th and mid-18th centuries.
And in 16th century Naples, these flatbreads called pizza already existed, but they had a very specific social identity.
They did. And that identity was, well, deeply rooted in poverty.
Right. Naples was huge, densely populated, a major port.
And often marked by deep poverty, yeah. The pizza was essential, cheap street food. It was sustenance for the Lazzaroni.
The Lazzaroni being?
The poorest classes. The street folk.
Yeah.
Pizza was the absolute antithesis of formal dining. You wouldn't find it in cookbooks or aristocratic kitchens back then.
It was survival food, sold by the slice, probably.
By the slice, by the chunk. Functional. The flatbread itself was simple, yeast-based.
Okay, but what transformed this, poor man's bread into what we'd recognize as modern pizza? It was adding that one critical world-changing ingredient.
The tomato. Simple as that. The introduction of the tomato changed the trajectory of this dish completely, cemented its Neapolitan identity.
But it wasn't like tomatoes arrived and boom, pizza.
Not at all. There was a significant time lag, couple of centuries, really.
Because the tomato arrived in Europe from the Americas back in the 16th century, didn't it? Mostly via Spain. So why the long wait? 200 years.
Because of fear. Profound fear. For nearly 2 centuries, many Europeans genuinely believed the tomato was poisonous.
The nightshade connection.
Exactly. The tomato plant belongs to the Solanaceae family, the deadly nightshade family, which includes, actually, toxic plants like belladonna. So aristocrats, especially, were convinced it was dangerous. The poison apple.
And wasn't there something about their plates reinforcing that myth? Pewter plates?
Ah, yes. That's a key detail often overlooked. Pewter plates had high levels of lead.
Okay.
The acidity of the tomato, when it sat on those plates, would leach the lead out.
Causing lead poisoning.
Right. So the wealthy would eat tomatoes off their fancy pewter, get sick, and logically maybe conclude the tomato itself was the poison.
Meanwhile, the poor.
The poor ate off wooden trenchers or maybe cheap ceramic bowls. They avoided the lead poisoning and inadvertently proved that tomato was safe to eat.
So the rich feared it, partly because their expensive tableware was actually poisoning them and they could afford other food anyway.
Pretty much. While the poor, driven by sheer economic necessity, were forced to try this, prolific, cheap, calorie-rich fruit that grew easily.
Wow. So it was the poor who took the risk.
Precisely. By the late 18th century, the poor around Naples, desperate for calories, finally started adding the tomato to their yeast-based flatbreads. And that is the moment. Driven by poverty, maybe a bit of brave culinary experimentation, that's what finalizes the modern conception of pizza.
It's a powerful story about how innovation sometimes comes from those with the least to lose.
Absolutely.
Do the sources give any clues about how the tomato specifically got to Naples?
They offer a few interesting possibilities, all tied back to the Spanish Empire, which controlled Naples and Sicily at the time.
Like what?
Well, one theory suggests it might have arrived with Pedro Alvarez de Toledo back in the 16th century. Maybe just as a botanical curiosity, something pretty to look at.
Okay.
Another, slightly later theory points to a viceroy named Manuel de Amat around 1770. Maybe she gifted some seeds brought over from Peru.
Peru, right, the origin.
Regardless of the exact vector, the point is, by the time it got widely adopted in the late 18th century, it was the social class of the Lazzaroni who made that bold, necessary choice to actually eat it and put it on their bread. Hashtag tag 3. The rise of the pizzeria and the Margherita mythology.
Okay, so now we have the flatbread plus the tomato. It's starting to look like pizza, and this transitions it from just street food to something more structured, needing a whole system of commerce, right?
Exactly. The institutionalization of pizza in Naples began long before the first, formal restaurant opened its doors.
And the early jobs associated with it tell a story.
They really do. These early trade roles tell us a lot about the demand. Before actual pizzerias, there were two fascinating non-maker roles. First, the pizzuelo ambulante.
The pizza hawker.
The pizza hawker, yeah. Moving through the streets, maybe with a little portable oven, or just carrying boxes of pre-made pizza slices. The original mobile distribution system.
Basically the first food trucks. But the second role is even more telling about the economy back then.
That would be the seller of pizza, a Oggi. This is fantastic.
Oggi, meaning?
Literally, today for 8. This person would make and sell the pizzas, but the customer would pay for it after 7 days on the 8th day.
So pizza on credit.
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah.
An essential line of culinary credit for the poor. It just demonstrates that pizza wasn't a luxury. It was a daily necessity. So crucial that people needed to consume it on credit just to get through the week.
That's amazing. A microloan system based on baked goods. But eventually, the demand must have grown enough for actual sit-down places.
That shift started in the early 19th century. The world's first true pizzeria, where pizza was the main event and you could eat it on the premises, is widely recognized as Antica Pizzeria Port Alba, established 1830.
Port Alba, still there today, isn't it?
Still going strong. And just a few years later, 1833, another place opened, L'Estanze di Piazza Carità. We know about that one because the scholar Francesco De Sanctis mentioned it in his memoirs, how he and his teenage friends used to hang out there.
So pizza was becoming a social thing, not just fuel.
Exactly, a shared experience.
And by the 1840s, it was popular enough to attract attention from, well, famous writers, Alexandre Dumas.
Yes, Dumas. Of the Three Musketeers fame, he visited Naples and wrote about the incredible diversity of pizza toppings he saw in 1843.
So it wasn't just one recipe even then.
Not at all. That contemporary documentation is vital. It shows that by the mid-19th century, pizza was already varied, established. And just a few years after Dumas in 1849, another writer, Emanuele Rocco, provided a detailed classification of the different types available.
Okay, so what were the main kinds Rocco described back then?
He listed the main ones. The most common was colelio e l'olio, with garlic and oil.
Simple.
Very simple. Oil, salt, oregano, minced garlic. Sometimes small sea fish like anchovies were added.
Okay. And the other main type?
The other main variant was the one topped with grated cheese, lard, basil, and thin slices of mozzarella. Basically the direct precursor to the Margherita.
Ah, okay. And he also mentioned the folding technique.
Yes, the calzone, so even that goes way back.
Now, we can't talk early types without mentioning the marinara. It's maybe the purest expression of that Neapolitan simplicity.
The marinara is just perfect, isn't it? Tomato, oregano, garlic, extra virgin olive oil. That's it.
So simple.
It's a testament to how minimal ingredients, done perfectly, can be sublime. And the name, marinara. Again, tells a lovely story.
It wasn't named because it had seafood, right?
Correct. It was named because it was the staple dish prepared by the seaman's wife, La Marinara, for her husband when he came back exhausted from fishing trips in the Bay of Naples. A simple, restorative meal.
Nice. Okay, now let's tackle the most famous origin story in probably all of food history. The Margherita, the red, white, and green pizza for the queen.
Ah, the Queen Margherita legend, 1889. Everyone knows this story.
Right. Pizza maker Raffaele Esposito creates 3 pizzas for Queen Margherita of Savoy during her visit to Naples.
And she prefers the one topped with basil, green, mozzarella white, and tomato red, because it looks like the Italian flag, which is relatively new then.
It's a great story, very patriotic, good branding.
Wonderful branding.
But the research pretty thoroughly debunks this specific 1889 invention story, doesn't it?
It really does. I mean, the queen might well have enjoyed that combination, but the recipe itself existed long before she set foot in Naples.
So that combo tomato, mozzarella, basil was already common.
Oh, yes. Our sources confirm it. In fact, those two most famous pieces, the marinara and the Margherita combination, are historically dated much earlier, like 1734 for marinara and somewhere between 1796 and 1810 for the Margherita mix.
Wow, so potentially a century before the Queen's visit.
Exactly. And that specific 1889 narrative seems to have been, well, retrofitted decades later.
How do we know that?
Later research points out there was basically no contemporary media coverage of this supposed big event in 1889. The story and that famous letter of recognition people always cite.
Right, the thank you note from the palace.
Yeah, that didn't really enter public consciousness until it was actively promoted in the 1930s and 40s. It became a powerful symbol for post-unification national pride.
Makes sense.
Plus, we know that even earlier, back in 1830, long before the 1889 story, a commentator named Riccio had already described a pizza topped with tomatoes, mozzarella, and basil. The ingredients were standardized long before the Queen provided the marketing hook.
So she didn't invent it. She just gave it a great name and a powerful political symbol that, well, stuck.
That's the takeaway, really. History meets patriotism meets very successful marketing.
And speaking of tradition, it's important to remember pizza wasn't always savory, was it?
No, not exclusively. Earlier versions often resembled that flatbread schiacciata and could definitely be sweet.
Sweet pizza recipes surviving into the 20th century. That sounds almost alien to us now.
It shows how recent the total savory dominance really is. I mean, think about Pellegrino Artusi's classic Italian cookbook, La Scienza in Cucina e l'arte di mangiar bene, hugely influential early 20th century.
Okay.
When it first came out, it had 3 recipes for pizza, and all 3 were sweet.
All of them. Like what?
More like open-faced cakes, really, topped with things like raisins, nuts.
Oh.
It was only later, after reader feedback and the growing fame of the Neapolitan savory style, that Artusi actually added a type sheet into the 1911 edition.
An update.
An update, exactly. Finally, including the recipe for pizza alla Napolitana with the savory stuff. Mozzarella, tomatoes, anchovies, mushrooms. So the big shift to savory was actually a pretty modern development, driven by Naples, #Chag4TV, the standards of authenticity and Italian regionalism.
Okay, so pizza is exploding in popularity within Naples. You said 54 pizzerias in 1807, growing to 120 by the late 19th century.
That's right, the growth was steady.
So with that growth, there must have been a feeling, a need maybe, to protect this specific, precious Neapolitan identity, which takes us from history to, like, modern regulation.
This is exactly where tradition becomes an art form governed by, well, almost by law. In 1984, they founded the Associazione Veraci Pizza Napolitana.
The True Neapolitan Pizza Association, AVPN.
The AVPN, exactly. And they established incredibly stringent, almost theological rules for making Verace pizza Napolitana authentic Neapolitan pizza. These are serious, non-negotiable standards.
Okay, let's break down those ironclad requirements. It starts with the oven, right?
Yes. Rule number 1, has to be baked in a wood-fired domed oven. No exceptions.
Why wood-fired?
It's about the intense heat, around 900 degrees Fahrenheit, sometimes more, that cooks the pizza incredibly fast, like 60 to 90 seconds.
Wow.
And that quick, intense heat gives you that characteristic charred, blistered crust, cornizione, but keeps the center soft and moist.
Okay. And then there's the rule about how you handle the dough. Very specific.
Absolutely crucial. The dough handling is sacrosanct. The base must be hand-kneaded and shaped by the pizziolis, the pizza makers.
Using only their hands.
Only their fingers, really, which links back beautifully to that Latin root pincer to poundo. The sources are crystal clear. You must not use a rolling pin or any mechanical means.
Why no rolling pin? What difference does it make?
It's believed that hand stretching pushes the air from the center to the edge, creating that light, airy, puffy rim, the cornizione, while keeping the base thin. A rolling pin just flattens everything uniformly. It changes the texture completely.
Right. And the AVPN even dictates the final size and thickness.
They leave nothing to chance. The finished pizza, not more than 35 centimeters in diameter. And it has to be incredibly thin at the center, no more than 1/3 of a centimeter thick.
That's thin.
Very thin. These rules aren't just about ingredients. They're designed to protect the integrity of the craft. the skill of the pizza maker.
And that level of dedication, it really sets the authentic Neapolitan places apart. They seem to go even beyond the official rules sometimes.
Oh, they embody extreme traditionalism.
Right.
Famous spots in Naples, like Da Michele, often adhere to standards even stricter than the AVPN minimums.
Like with ingredients.
Exactly. For instance, insisting on using only San Marzano tomatoes, and not just any San Marzanos.
Specifically the ones grown.
On the volcanic slopes of Mount Vesuvius.
Right. Is that just, branding, or is there a real difference?
Proponents swear by it. They say the mineral-rich volcanic soil gives those tomatoes a unique sweetness and low acidity, which is essential for the balance of a simple Neapolitan topping like the Margherita or marinara.
Okay. And then there's the performance aspect, the ritual.
Yes. This is the detail I love too, the ritual of the oil.
The clockwise drizzling.
Exactly. When drizzling the extra virgin olive oil, and even sometimes when adding the tomato topping, the pizzuolo must do it only in a clockwise direction.
Is that actually in the AVPN rules?
Not officially mandated by the AVPN documents, no. But it's a ritual deeply ingrained in the training and the tradition passed down through generations in the most famous pizzerias. It turns cooking into, well, performance art almost, emphasizing precision, respect for the tradition.
And the world has formally recognized this, not just as great food, but as protected global culture.
It has. The global value of pizza napolitana is enshrined by high international bodies. In December 2009, it got PDO status protected designation of origin from the EU.
Like champagne or Parmesan cheese.
Exactly that level of protection. And maybe even more significantly, in 2017, the art of the Neapolitan pizzuolo itself, the knowledge, the gestures, the whole craft was inscribed on the UNESCO Intangible Cultural Heritage lists.
So the way they make it is officially recognized as essential human culture worth preserving.
That's what it means.
Wow. The most casual food in the world is also a UNESCO-protected art form. That contradiction is just fascinating.
It really is.
But even within Italy, that Neapolitan soft, foldable standard isn't universal, is it?
Oh no. Italy itself has regional debates, mostly about texture. Naples, soft, pliable, almost soupy in the middle, easy to fold a libretto like a little book.
Right.
But you go north to Rome.
Yeah.
Totally different preference. Pizza Romana demands a base that is thin and distinctively crispy, almost like a cracker.
Scrocchiarella, they call it sometimes, right? That crackle.
Exactly. And the way it's served changes dramatically too.
You mean pizza al taglio?
Absolutely. Pizza by the cut, very common in Rome. Pizza baked in these big rectangular trays, often with lots of different toppings side by side, and sold by weight.
So you just point and say, give me a slice that big.
Pretty much. It's fundamentally different from the single, personal, round, wood-fired disc of Naples. It reflects a faster-paced, modern urban lifestyle. More variety, more portability.
Okay, so for pizza to conquer the world, it had to leave Italy. And its first major landing spot was the United States, carried across the ocean by Italian immigrants in the late 19th century.
And that initial American story perfectly mirrors the Neapolitan origins, really.
Sure.
Poverty, necessity. One of the very earliest places to sell pizza was Lombardi's in New York City.
Open when?
1897. But it started as just a small grocery store, selling staples to the local Italian immigrant community. They saw a need for cheap, portable lunch for factory workers nearby.
So they weren't really formal pizzerias at first, just selling food to go.
Exactly. They sold what they call tomato pies. Wrapped in plain paper, tied up with string, it was a direct transplant of that 16th century Naples street food culture into industrialized New York.
And Lombardi's became kind of an incubator, didn't it?
It did. Their original baker, a guy named Antonio Totano Perot, eventually left and opened his own hugely influential spot, Totano's, out in Coney Island in 1924. Still legendary, shows the model worked.
And the spread across the Northeast happened pretty quickly then, establishing these little pockets of pizza culture.
Yeah, you see that geographical expansion almost immediately. Boston got Neapolitan pizza in 1903, thanks to Giovanni and Gennaro Bruno, and Giovanni's son actually carried the tradition west, opening Chicago's very first pizzeria.
Chicago's first. Interesting, given what came later.
Right, and don't forget New Jersey, an incredible concentration of early pioneers in Trenton. Joe's Tomato Pies in 1910, Papa's Tomato Pies in 1912, Del Renzo's in 1936. These places were setting regional standards over a century ago. Still debated fiercely today which one is best.
And that regional pride is maybe strongest in New Haven, Connecticut, famous for its own unique style, a pizza.
Oh, New Haven is a cornerstone of American pizza history. Frank Pepe Pizzeria Napolitana opened in 1925. They became internationally famous for really unusual specialty. the white clam pie.
Clams on pizza. Sounds bold.
It's incredible, actually. And just down the block, his nephew, Sal Concilio, opened Sally's a Pizza in 1938. Another icon.
And these places mean a lot to the community there.
Hugely. The source mentioned that when Sal Concilio passed away, over 2,000 people attended his wake, and the New York Times ran a half-page memoriam. That shows the level of cultural reverence these neighborhood pizzerias can command in the U.S.
Okay, but before the 1940s, pizza was still largely an ethnic specialty, right? Confined mostly to Italian-American neighborhoods.
That's generally true, yeah.
So what was the catalyst for it going national, becoming mass market?
One word. War. World War II.
How did the war change things?
It was the critical turning point. Before the war, if you weren't in a major Italian-American enclave, you probably hadn't eaten pizza. But during the Italian campaign, huge numbers of American GIs, from the lowest privates all the way up to high-ranking officers like Dwight D. Eisenhower, were stationed in Italy.
And they got introduced to the local food, including pizza.
Exactly. They developed a taste for it. Then they came home after the war.
Millions of them wanting the food they'd enjoyed overseas. The market basically went from niche to mainstream almost overnight.
It was a massive psychological shift and a market shift. And American entrepreneurs responded instantly. They took this simple Italian dish, and in classic American fashion, they innovated and commercialized it immediately.
Which led to some big changes in how it was made and sold.
Fundamental changes. Things like adopting gas and electric commercial ovens to handle the sheer volume. Switching from fresh, wet mozzarella, which is tricky to handle and transport, to low-moisture processed mozzarella, which slices better, distributes better, lasts longer.
And developing new delivery models. And of course, the greatest, or maybe most controversial, American pizza innovation of all.
Gotta be Chicago deep dish.
Invented when?
1943, by Ike Sewell and Rick Ricardo, who opened Pizzeria Uno.
And they didn't just change the shape, they changed the whole structure.
Completely. It's less a pizza, more a dense, layered casserole, almost. The cheese often goes directly on the dough. Then the toppings are piled high and the sauce goes on top. It's like an inverted pizza, designed for maximum heft, maximum fullness. Very American.
And from those independent innovators, you get the explosion of the big commercial chains, making pizza a standardized fast food staple everywhere.
The infrastructure for mass production and delivery quickly followed, yeah.
Shakey's Pizza launched in California in 1954, focused on a family dine-in experience with entertainment. Then Pizza Hut, founded by the Carney brothers in Kansas in 1958, really scaled the concept globally.
And Little Caesars. Little Caesars followed in 1959 in Michigan, and they pioneered that 2 pizzas for 1 price model, the value proposition. These chains basically removed the regional and ethnic constraints, made pizza an accessible commodity coast to coast.
And today, the U.S. consumption numbers just reflect that whole history of assimilation and commercialization.
They absolutely do. You still have fierce competition among the neighborhood pizzerias, often run by Italian or maybe Greek immigrants who do pizza, but also subs, gyros.
Right, the classic pizza and sub shop.
Exactly. And then you have the massive chain market serving quick, standardized stuff. And just to put a number on its importance today, the source says 13% of the U.S. population eats pizza on any given day.
13%, that's huge.
It is. And just for a fun, slightly absurd metric of scale, the world's largest pizza ever made, Los Angeles, 2012. Over 1,260 square meters.
I can't even picture that. That's insane. Okay, the pizza migration story continues north. Canada gets its first pizzeria, Pizzeria Napolitana, in Montreal in 1948. And the dish pretty quickly develops its own distinct North American identity there, too.
Yeah, Canadian pizza is definitely distinct. I mean, sure, there are regional differences, but there's a generally understood Canadian pizza recipe with a specific profile.
Which includes?
Always tomato sauce, always mozzarella.
Yep.
But the signature toppings are pepperoni, mushrooms, and crucially side bacon.
Okay, we need to clarify that bacon distinction because Canadian bacon in the U.S. is different.
That's a really key point. When you order a Canadian pizza in Canada, you should know it almost never comes with what Americans call Canadian bacon,
right?
Which is back bacon, basically ham.
Right.
It's the thin, crispy strips of side bacon cut from the belly like regular breakfast bacon. That specific combination, side bacon, pepperoni, mushrooms, is the benchmark for classic Canadian-style pizza.
Got it. Side bacon. But maybe the most radical cultural blend mentioned in our sources comes out of Quebec. Pizzaghetti. This just sounds wild.
Pizzaghetti is a phenomenal curiosity and a truly localized cultural blend. Very common in Quebecois, family restaurants, diners, fast food places.
And it is exactly what it sounds like.
Pretty much. It's a combination meal. You get a pizza, often just a slice, or maybe a half pie, served right alongside a portion of spaghetti, usually with a standard meat or tomato sauce.
So they're not mixed together in the dish. They're just served together on the same plate. And you eat both.
Precisely. It's fusion on the plate, not in the prep. A practical culinary mashup, probably rooted in that diner tradition where customers want maximum value, maximum comfort carbs, maybe.
Okay.
And the sources make a point of stressing. While pizza and spaghetti are obviously both Italian staples, putting them together on one plate like that, utterly unknown in Italy, frankly baffling to Italians.
I can imagine. And doesn't it sometimes get even weirder with spaghetti as a topping?
Yes. There's a popular variant where spaghetti is actually used as a pizza topping, often placed directly on the sauce, under the cheese, before baking.
Wow. That is radical customization. Pushing way beyond any historical precedent, shows how incredibly adaptable the dish is to hyper-regional tastes.
It really highlights that flexibility once it leaves the homeland, adapting to, maybe, the Quebecois penchant for combining hearty diner staples.
Yeah.
And Canada has fostered some hugely successful domestic pizza chains based on this model of adaptability.
Like Boston Pizza, right, or BP's, founded in Edmonton in 1964.
BP's is a massive Canadian success story. Interesting fact, it started as the Boston Pizza and Spaghetti House.
Ah, acknowledging the combo appeal early on.
Exactly. Recognizing that customers often wanted that full range of Italian-American style comfort food. It's grown into one of Canada's largest franchising restaurants. Over 325 locations in Canada, plus another 50 or so in the US and Mexico. They really dominate that casual dining space.
And then there's the big player based in Ontario, Pizza Pizza.
Pizza Pizza, yeah. Another domestic powerhouse. Along with its Western Canadian subsidiary, Pizza 73, it commands a huge chunk of the delivery market. The source said they fill over 29 million orders a year for more than 500 locations. They've really defined that quick-service pizza segment across central and eastern Canada.
But of course, pizza being global means Canada is also a battleground for the big American chains.
Oh, absolutely. Despite the strength of homegrown brands like BP's and Pizza Pizza, the Canadian market is aggressively contested by the U.S. giants. Pizza Hut, Domino's, Little Caesars are all huge there.
And they compete how? Just with their standard menus.
They offer their standard classics, of course, but they also compete by creating specific Canadian specialty pizzas using that side bacon formula, trying to capture those regional loyalties. It just proves that the tension between global standards and local identity plays out everywhere, in every corner of the pizza market. Hashtag Shag Outro.
What an incredible journey we've just taken, seriously. We started with flatbreads used as, sacrificial offerings? Plakous. And military rations baked on actual battle shields under Darius the Great.
Amazing image, isn't it?
We traced the origin of the word pizza itself from a Latin root meaning to pound, followed its path as this cheap, essential food for the Neapolitan poor.
Lazzaroni.
Fundamentally changed forever by overcoming that widespread European fear of the tomato.
And the synthesis here, I think, is recognizing that pizza's enduring global success lies in its absolute, almost chameleon-like adaptability. But that adaptability was only really possible because of that one brave, maybe desperate leap taken by the Neapolitan poor centuries ago, a risk that paid off, culinarily speaking, for the entire world.
And the contrast today is just spectacular. On one side, you have the meticulous, the almost ceremonial rules of Veros pizza Napolitana, the hand-kneading, the Vesuvius-only tomatoes, that ritual clockwise oil drizzling, all protected by UNESCO, no less.
The height of tradition.
While on the completely other side, you have the radical cultural fusion we see across the globe, from the invention of the, let's face it, structurally bizarre Chicago deep bits,
Bizarre but popular,
to the Quebec pizzaghetti, where this ancient, simple dish is constantly treated like a blank canvas for totally new regional identities, new commercial models.
It morphs constantly.
So what does this all mean for us, for you listening? I think the millennial history of pizza forces us to confront the very definition of authenticity, doesn't it?
That's a great point.
Is true knowledge of pizza found only in that rigorous adherence to the AVPN's UNESCO-protected tradition, guarding a method nearly 1,000 years old? Or is the true spirit of pizza maybe found in its infinite variations, in its embrace of new technologies, new toppings, new cultural demands all over the planet?
It raises a really interesting final question for you, the listener, to think about. We've established that the basic concept flatbread with toppings is universal. We've seen pizza conquer the world. So what other long-standing flatbread tradition, maybe that manicus we mentioned from the Levant, or the Spanish coca, even the Balkan lapinja, which one do you think have the right mix of cultural flexibility and historical depth to potentially be the next global culinary phenomena?
It's definitely a delicious concept to mull over.
Indeed.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for diving deep with us today. We'll catch you next time on The Deep Dive.